Hello and welcome to India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi, and the next 30 minutes we will talk about stories that impact India and how India views developments around the world. But first up, the headlines. India-Malaysia upgrade their ties to a comprehensive partnership. Leaders signed 8 MOUs on worker recruitment, digital technology, amongst others. India and Malaysia discuss defense and counter-terrorism. India and Japan hold 2+2 ministerial dialogue, the third since 2019. Quad and maritime security along with defense on the agenda. The focus of the meeting is on countering Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Israeli military retrieves 6 hostage bodies from Gaza. 109 hostages still remain in Hamas captivity in Gaza since October 7th last year. Israel accepts the US bridging proposal for a ceasefire deal. Bangladeshi War Crimes Tribunal set up. Hasina launches 3 mass murder probes against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. 2 more mass murder cases have now been filed against the former Prime Minister. Taiwan conducts missile drills at sensitive test site. The test comes amidst growing Chinese aggression in the region. On to a development that we are watching very closely, which is the historic visit, the first of an Indian Prime Minister in over 4 decades, that is to Poland. Prime Minister Modi will be meeting his Polish counterpart, and the visit assumes significance since it coincides with the 70th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between India and Poland. Poland is an important trade partner for India. It is the largest in the Central and Eastern European region. It is also important strategically since Poland assumes the presidency of the Council of European Union next year, and Prime Minister Modi's visit will also strengthen a civilizational connect between the two countries. Poland is a center of Indology, with Sanskrit being studied extensively in the country since 1860. The University of Warsaw is the home to the largest Indology department in the whole of Central Europe, and that's a very important meeting that we will be keeping a very close watch on. Remember, first it's Poland and then Prime Minister Modi heads to Ukraine. And first up, take a look at this Crown report that's been filed by my colleague Vishnu Som on a 20-hour journey from Warsaw to Kiev.
The train en route to Kiev in Ukraine. We are still in Poland. We get off in a station called Kelm. We then transfer on to a train by the Ukrainian railways, and then it's a straight 16-hour journey. It's a journey throughout the night. But this is in fact the most efficient way of actually getting into Ukraine. It's been very, very difficult in the past. I've covered the war on 2 occasions. On each occasion in the past, I've had to get onto buses and on the way back with refugees looking to get out of Ukraine and into Poland. Very, very difficult border crossings, but I believe the situation has become more regulated right now. But for India, the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Ukraine is of huge import. It comes at a time when India has made it absolutely clear that our interests lie in being entirely independent in our foreign policy, that while we talk about the territorial sanctity of countries including Ukraine and the need for a negotiated settlement to the crisis, we do continue to maintain very close relations with Russia. But the visit of the Prime Minister to Ukraine, the first time an Indian Prime Minister is visiting this country, very, very important, because India in the process, and the Prime Minister in a sense, is establishing himself as an important global leader, certainly a leader of the G20, certainly a leader of the Global South, in sending an important message that the war must come to an end. He will of course be meeting President Zelensky as well and continue conversations across a range of issues. Not least of all the defense relationship between India and Ukraine. It's something not spoken about very much, but it's a relationship that's important. Remember, the Indian Navy's destroyers and frigates are powered by gas turbine engines provided by Ukraine. The Indian Air Force uses AN-32 transport aircraft for decades. These are manufactured by Ukraine, the company Antonov. These are just some aspects of what is an important relationship between India and Ukraine. Certainly students and their welfare. There were thousands studying in this country. That's something that the Prime Minister may be talking about as well. But for now, it's a very long journey all the way to Kiev, a journey which will take us close to 20 odd hours by the time we are there tomorrow. For the moment, this is Vishnu Som for NDTV.
So that was Vishnu Som telling us the importance and significance of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ukraine, which will happen later. But first up, of course, is the important meeting that will take place with the Polish Prime Minister. And let's also get in a word from the China analyst of the Polish Institute of International Affairs that my colleague Uma Shankar Singh had to explain the significance of the India-Poland economic ties and the bilateral trade between the two sides. Take a look.
So, Mr. Marcin, how do you see China's role when it comes to Ukraine-Russia war? How China is helping its foreign policy, helping Russia in this war?
Well, definitely China is exploiting Russia in its own interests, and which are mostly similar to Russians, which generally is the remodeling of the international order. Because what China wants to achieve is, in its own rivalry with the US, to use up this opportunity to establish a new situation, international situation. And so all these initiatives that are being proposed by Chinese officials, by Xi Jinping himself, by the other Minister for Foreign Affairs, these are mostly initiatives in order to support Russia in its war efforts, but also to gain advantages politically on the global international arena, in Chinese relationship with the global South. But China wants to use up this opportunity to strengthen its position, and then, if situation occurs, to use up this better position in its own ambitions in the Indo-Pacific.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This conversation talked about how China and its significance in the entire region. Before we move ahead, a quick break. We come back with lots more on the other side of India Global. Stay with us.
जहां बवंडर आता है वहां
This.
Greetings, wonderful people of Britain. I'm Tom Allen, and it's my pleasure to declare delivering good news is a daily routine with People's Postcode Lottery. Curious on how it works? Well, prick up your ears and let me explain. Enter with your postcode to play. Own it, rent it, doesn't matter. Winning postcodes are announced every day with a whole host of delightful prizes that could be won by you and your neighbours.
And in our September draws, you could win a share of £18.5 million.
It costs £12 for a monthly subscription that guarantees you entry into all draws every month, aside from winning. Take pride in knowing you're playing your part for charities, with players having raised over £1.3 billion so far. Want to find out more or join? Then why not hop onto our website or dial our digits for a chit-chat. Sign up before midnight on the 31st of August. You never know, good news could be delivered to your postcode.
With retirement round the corner, I want to spend more time with my family and less time worrying about the numbers. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money could help with funeral costs or even as a gift for the grandkids. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a free £125 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
You got them all right. That's amazing.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 977 5808 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Sale now on at AO.com. Save £150 on this LG A-rated 9kg washing machine, now just $349. We'll get it installed and ready to use when it's delivered, saving you the hassle. Plus, save £100 on this LG OLED TV and claim a free soundbar worth $299. Discover hundreds more deals, all from the UK's most trusted major electrical retailer. Shop now at AO.com.
It crossed my mind who'd take care of him if I ever got seriously ill or passed away. But with a free Dogs Trust Canine Care Card, they'll care for your dog, quirks and all, and find them a loving new home. And they always promise to never put a healthy dog down. So when I'm gone, well, I can be sure Dogs Trust will always be there for him, pants and all. Sign up today.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global with me, Gaurie Dwivedi. Shifting focus now to the Indo-Pacific and first, of course, to Malaysia, where Prime Minister Modi met his Malaysian counterpart, Anwar Ibrahim, who's been on a 3-day visit to India. Anwar Ibrahim was given the ceremonial welcome at Hyderabad House, and the two leaders signed 8 MOUs on a whole host of issues, from labour recruitment to digital technology to defence and strategic areas. Listen in to first what the two leaders had to say.
आज सीईओ फोरम की मीटिंग से नई संभावनाएं सामने आई हैं। हम दोनों ने रक्षा क्षेत्र में आपसी सहयोग की नई संभावनाओं पर भी बात की है। आतंकवाद और अतिवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भी हम एकमत हैं। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और मलेशिया सदियों से एक दूसरे से जुड़े हैं।
We have initiated a lot of new programs and we would hope that Indian companies with Malaysian companies collaborate further in all fields, including the new challenging areas like energy transition, digitalization, and also food security. And we did emphasize the need to use both our experience and expertise in the semiconductor area, which we are fortunate to be considered a hub in Southeast Asia.
All right, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins me for the very latest on this. Ghazali, now this is an important visit and it sets the agenda for the next 5 years or 10 years as far as the India-Malaysia partnership is concerned.
Yeah, so first of all, that there were many important MOUs which are signed between the two countries. The one related to the Indian workers who are working in Malaysia. On that front, India and Malaysia had reached an understanding that their interests and their safety is paramount, because India and Malaysia, both the governments are concerned about illegal immigration, trafficking of Indian workers to the Southeast Asian nations. So on this particular issue, a memorandum of understanding was reached or signed between the two countries. Now coming to the second strategic understanding between the two countries, and I'll refer to some of the MOUs which have been signed. In total, around 8 MOUs have been signed between the two countries. Pact on promoting recruitment of Indian workers in Malaysia and protection of their interests. And besides that, the rest of the MOUs deal with the Digital Council. There will be establishment of a Digital Council for promoting or digitization of affairs between India and Malaysia. India will be assisting Malaysia in other spheres, and trade ties and investment will begin in the fields of defense manufacturing, semiconductors, AI, quantum. So these are the sectors on which both the countries will deepen their relations. The Malaysian Prime Minister, as you heard, also said in his address that he expects Indian companies also to invest in Malaysia, and Malaysia is one of the most prominent trading partners of India in Southeast Asian nation. Now, why this is very relevant or significant? This is the first trip of Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, the Malaysian Prime Minister, who visited India after becoming the Prime Minister, and also the first meeting between Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, in his third term. In a larger context, why this is significant? Because India is also concerned about the growing influence of China in the Southeast Asian region, and Malaysia could be one of its significant partner to thwart that effort.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, thanks much for breaking that down for us. In fact, shifting focus now and staying with the larger Indo-Pacific, Foreign and Defense Ministers of India and Japan held their 2+2 dialogue. This is the third edition of the meetings, which started in 2019 after China's aggression grew both on land and on sea. Now, this meeting, the 2+2 dialogue, comes at a time when there are massive political changes that are taking place in Japan, with Prime Minister Kishida set to step down sometime in September. It also comes at a time when the US elections are in full swing and there is now lack of clarity as to what could be the future of some of these Quad groupings and other mechanisms aimed at ensuring and keeping the Indo-Pacific free and fair. Now, besides a very strong bilateral trade agenda, India and Japan also share close cooperation on defense and defense technology, as far as having complete alignment as far as their strategic goals in the region are concerned. And that's our big debate on India Global today. The next phase in the India-Japan relationship: how can the two sides work more closely towards maritime security? And with Bangladesh sitting at the most strategic location in the Indo-Pacific, how does the volatility and flux in Dhaka impact the entire region and have an impact on India-Japan relationship as well? That's our big debate. Let me now welcome the two guests on the show. First is Mr. Ashok Malik. Joining me on the show is also Dr. Premasha Saha. Thank you so much to both of you. Mr. Malik, let me start with you, sir. As the relationship between India and Japan is concerned, it has evolved significantly from its original trade-centric relationship to one that now, of course, is more strategic and aimed to have and provide a direction to the Indo-Pacific at large. How do you see it going forward?
There's a lot to praise in the Indo-Japan engagement. These are old friends, these are trusted friends, these are Quad partners, and I do expect the Quad engagement to continue irrespective of who comes to office in Washington in November. Having said that, this is also an underperforming relationship. Primarily because Japan is still looking for a strategic successor to Prime Minister Abe. That is the rough and blunt truth. This relationship is missing a champion such as Prime Minister Abe. Prime Minister Kishida filled some of those shoes, but not all of them. And now even he has announced that he's moving into the sunset. So the future of Japan's approach to not just India, but to the Indo-Pacific and to the big China question remains, because remember, there's a lot of internal debate within Japan as well, and that has never quite got clarified. Second, there's been some disappointment in the Indian system related to Japanese investment in India, especially in the technology.
Ella, her body is defenseless against infections.
Where the Japanese have enormous strengths. They have the entire semiconductor ecosystem is something which Japan has a huge imprint. But Japanese companies have been somewhat, I wouldn't say unenthusiastic, but less than enthusiastic in investing in India. Okay. This is something which External Affairs Minister Jaishankar also referred to recently. And that is becoming a bit of a hiccup in the relationship, if you ask me, despite optics otherwise being very good.
Okay, Dr. Saha, Ashok Malik is right when he says that, there's a bit of a confusion in the Japanese dispensation as well. They go from making China their biggest threat to wanting to have some sort of a strategic partnership, all in a matter of 12 months. So how do you see that in the context of the India-Japan relationship, given that they share the common concerns regarding China?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Even if you see the Japanese Defense White Paper in 2022, you would see that they clearly mention China as a threat. But now if you are seeing the changes which has happened in the Defense White Papers in 2023 and even in the recent one in 2024, there is a willingness to basically coexist along with China, not to completely decouple from China, because obviously the threat perception is there. Japan is concerned about, for example, China's gray zone tactics in South China Sea, East China Sea, the Taiwan Strait. But at the same time, there is a willingness to economically cooperate with China to work wherever there are sensitive areas and of areas of mutual interest to the two sides. But I think what needs to be also seen, for example, is during this visit, Japan is very keen on strengthening defense and security partnership with India. There has been, for example, a transformation in the three principles on transfer of defense equipment and technology in Japan. And this is a good opportunity for India as well to tap in this, this transformation which has happened and to enter into deeper defense and security partnership with Japan.
Okay.
But I've been in Tokyo for 6 months, and sometimes there is also a lot of lack of awareness about how Indian foreign policy, how Indian strategic thinking is working. So I think also people.
Okay, that's very disappointing simply because these are Quad partners. They meet so often. This 2+2 engagement has also been happening for the last 5 years. So that's a little disappointing to hear. But Ashok Malik, then let me ask you this question in terms of the immediate that has happened, which is the flux in Bangladesh. It has an impact on the entire Indo-Pacific region. Bangladesh sits on a very strategic point. How do you see that playing in terms of the larger maritime security between India and Japan?
Look, India and Japan had spoken about economic and developmental projects in South Asia, including in Bangladesh. So some of those projects, some of those plans and ideas will now obviously face a bit of a question mark because there is an interim government in Bangladesh. It needs to crystallize into something more lasting, and only after that will any call be taken. Having said that, I think the broader point is not what Bangladesh means for the Indo-Pacific. It is that great power competition has sharpened in our part of the world. It involves, of course, India and Japan, but it also involves China and the US. The US was absent this part of the world for South Asia, at least for many years. It's now showing a greater interest. China is very much a part of South Asia, South Asian politics today, and we have to deal with that. The Indo-Pacific is actually much more composite than we imagine. It's the Indian Ocean part and the Pacific part are actually facing similar challenges, and both are responding to the rise of China. So yes, there will be room for cooperation here because you can't compartmentalize the two sub-regions. And I'm sure Bangladesh was discussed in that context.
Indeed. Yes, Southeast Asia, in fact, is the epicenter of the power competition that's currently at play. You have America, you have China, and of course, India there. Dr. Saha, then let me ask you this as far as, the immediate in terms of the political realignment that's taking place. There's also the very crucial elections that's taking place in America. How do you see that impacting the Quad mechanism, if at all? Do you think it's insulated from any political changes that may take place either in America or in Japan?
I think the bigger picture is the Indo-Pacific concept. Even if there is a change in leadership in America during President Trump's time, I think the Indo-Pacific concept garnered a lot more importance in the U.S. policy circle. So I think with regards to the Indo-Pacific, with regards to the Quad, there would be a continuity in approach. Even with Japan, I think even after Prime Minister Abe, the subsequent prime ministers, they have continued to lay emphasis on Indo-Pacific. They have continued to lay emphasis on the Quad. Yes, sometimes there are certain questions which are raised about the Quad, but at the same time, even the recent foreign ministers meeting has shown that the Quad's agenda is quite wide-ranging, and its importance is on a much different level compared to other minilateral groupings which are coming about. For example, the Quad involving the Philippines. So I think the Quad needs to be looked at from a different perspective. Okay. And it will continue to remain relevant even for Japan, whoever comes after Prime Minister, Kishida.
Yes,
so I think
indeed. Okay, running out of time, but very quickly I want to ask this, and this is around defense technology. There's been a lot of talk about how there has to be greater cooperation in terms of defense technology. How do you see that relationship evolving, Ashok Malik?
Look, we can sign any number of agreements and memoranda on defense technology. It boils down to are Japanese companies willing to come, put in money, share technology, and enter into co-production arrangements in India, because that is where the rubber hits the road. And here, to be honest with you, well, there have been some encouraging voices, much remains to be done. And that is part of the Indian frustration with the Japanese system and the Japanese companies. So, it's really for Japan to act.
Okay.
Because other Quad countries are acting. The US is acting.
Okay.
It's not just talking.
Okay. Dr. Saha, quickly respond to that as far as, defense technology. A lot has been said, collaboration is been talked about, but what's happening on ground?
I think this is a very sensitive issue in terms of, we are talking about defense and security cooperation in strategic terms. We are seeing a lot happening between the Japan self-defense forces and Indian armed forces. For example, you see DRDO and Japan's equivalent agency working on, for example, unmanned ground vehicles and robotics. But when we are talking about technology transfer, though there has been a transformation in Japan's principles on defense transfer and technology, and the aim is to work with other countries, to work even jointly with a country to help a third country. These kind of, they're working with the UK, Italy, Australia, Philippines. But I think the work has to start with India also as well. And I think this meeting is trying to make that pathway actually
absolutely
take place. So we have to see, but this is an area which needs a lot of work.
Right.
The foundation is there, but as Dr. Malik also said, there has to a lot has to happen on ground. We are seeing some strategic cooperation, but in terms of technology transfer, the picture a lot needs to be done.
Okay, all right. A lot needs to be done, but we've got to wrap this up right now. Thanks much, Ashok Malik, partner, the Asia Group and chair of its India practice, along with Dr. Premasha Saha, who's a fellow at ORF and also at the Japan Foundation Indo-Pacific Partnership, joining us live from Tokyo. Thanks much for both of you joining in this edition of India Global. With that, it's a wrap of this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.